Hi everyone, Tyler Manion here, NPC and IFBB Pro League Vice President, and this will be your Tampa Pro recap for Open Men's Bodybuilding, brought to you by Superpower. So the Men's Open show I thought was really good. Obviously a very deep lineup. There was guys, in the second call out, even guys outside the top 10 that have been very good bodybuilders. And this was just a really fun show to judge, a great lineup, and I think some guys showed some massive improvements at this show. So obviously our top two were Jordan and Quinton. For Jordan, I felt like he improved a lot since last year. He definitely added some more size, definitely added more density, brought up some of his weaker points, and overall his conditioning was very good. He was very conditioned. For Quinton, I thought this was a big statement show for him as well. Obviously, last year did not go as planned for him. He came in a lot smaller. His conditioning has always been more of an issue for him. Last year was probably the worst it ever was. I think now he showed that size-wise, he's back. Basically, everything about him is back on track, and you see the massive potential that he has. This is a guy that in a couple years now, if he trends in the right direction like he did from last year to this year and it keeps going forward, he's going to be fighting for major top spots at the Olympia if he can fill in these gaps with his physique. So obviously his potential is really limitless when you look at his physique. Now we'll go into comparing both of them and what I saw on this day. Obviously, before we go pose for pose, conditioning was a major factor here. Conditioning and density. You're going to hear me reference this a lot in a lot of the poses. So Jordan's conditioning was 100% spot on. His density was brought up in a lot of areas. Quinton's conditioning was still a little bit lacking. If I was going to take a guess, I would say he probably didn't want to try to really push the conditioning too far because he wanted to show off his added size and added tissue. But, conditioning still criteria of bodybuilding, and this is something that, honestly, it wasn't like his conditioning was terrible. I think it was just okay, but it wasn't close enough to being spot on. And this is a guy too where, there's some guys, they don't have to be absolutely peeled to be able to hang with other guys. Quinton's a guy that doesn't need to be peeled to the bone. He can get by with being very good conditioned, and because of his size and shape and structure, he's going to be able to beat a lot of guys. So we'll go into it. The first pose is the front double bicep pose. Front double bicep for Quinton. Overall, this pose is one of the best in the entire pro league. You see he has everything that you need. Great arms. His taper's amazing. Waist is small. Quads look good from the front. Overall balance is there. The flow of the physique is there. It's just a beautiful pose. For Jordan, it's one of his weaker poses. You can see that he can still use a little bit more width in this pose. His arms definitely came up from last year and previous years, but the arms can still use a little bit more as well. His conditioning was great. His legs, his lower body, very good. You see his quads are really good from the front. Great separation throughout his entire physique. It's just when you're standing next to someone like Quinton, it's very hard to go up against, even if the conditioning isn't quite the same. So this was a clear pose for me for Quinton to make it 1-0. The next pose is the front lat spread pose. Here's where you see really the difference in the density shine through. When you look at Jordan, he definitely brought up the thickness to his chest. Also, I said he made improvements to his arms. Also, I think his shoulders as well. They can obviously still be a little bit better, but you still see the conditioning and the detail, the separation and the density from shoulder to shoulder throughout the chest, in the outer arms. His taper actually looks very solid here. He has a pretty solid waistline, so you see nice taper with the lats down into the waistline. You see the separation even through his abdominals, going to his lower body. His legs and his quads from the front are very good. So overall, I actually think this is a very strong pose for Jordan. For Quinton, obviously you see the structure again and the potential in this pose, but you can see he's still a little bit flat through the chest. He needs more chest thickness and chest density. Obviously detail, when you're dense and you're thick with the conditioning, the detail shines through. He doesn't have that yet. And then even though he has good size to his arms and shoulders, wherever you're looking at him from every angle, here it's the outer arms and shoulders, the conditioning and the separation still wasn't there, so you just get a flatness to those as well. Obviously, he has great taper. His waist is super small. And again, his quads from the front are very solid and give good balance to his physique. He's a taller guy. You're comparing him now against Jordan. Look at Jordan's quads. Quinton's overall leg width from the front can still stand to come up a little bit, and I think this is just something that is going to happen as he naturally builds now on what he just presented to us. But this was a clear pose for Jordan to make it 1-1. Next up is the side chest pose. Again, here is where you see conditioning, density, and thickness. Jordan's outer arms and shoulders actually look very solid in this pose with good separation and conditioning. Chest is full. Chest is also dense and conditioned. Side leg, great balance between the quads and the hamstrings. Very good separation and conditioning. Overall balance from top to bottom, very strong with very strong conditioning. You can see here with Quinton, he has so much potential again, but you can see side leg, he definitely needs a little bit more size to his side leg, especially in the hamstring area. And again, the chest is just a little bit flat. You don't see that conditioning and density through it. And again, same with the outer arms and shoulders. You can see very good size to the outer arms and shoulders, but the conditioning and separation just not quite there. So for me, this was a pose for Jordan to make it 2-to-1. Next up is the back double bicep pose. This is a pose for both of these guys that they can definitely keep improving going forward. Jordan, I thought, improved this pose a lot from just last year. I would say this is Jordan's weakest pose, since he turned pro. He has continued to improve it year over year. He still needs to work on adding a little bit more density and thickness back there, and he can also still add a little bit more width to the back here as well. But again, the outer arms and shoulders, you can see the improvements. They look good. They're separated. The size looks solid. Nothing looks really small or imbalanced. Then again, you go into the lower body. Hamstrings are in. The leg width is there. Everything looks balanced from head to toe. For Quinton, this has also probably been Quinton's weakest pose overall for him since he turned pro. You can see that the lines are there. Now everything just needs to be filled in. Even I think, which has always been a problem for him, his lower back and his lower lats, there was definitely more mass there. So you see that nice taper. Again, the conditioning with the outer arms and shoulders, when he gets that conditioning in, those are going to pop so much because he has good size there. The back needs more thickness, 100% for sure in this pose. I actually think as he's doing this, he's going to make his back wider as well. That's just going to naturally come up as he's improving his back. He has the potential to make this a very strong pose. Going to the lower body, Quinton has good size, but again, you can see he can use more hamstrings. And again, adding a little bit more leg width to this pose as he's improving his back is going to make this pose really complete. We're looking at these two, obviously, but when you're sandwiched in between another guy, Joe, who was third place, who had an insane back double, you can see that these guys still have a lot of room to improve on their physiques, what their back double can look like. But I gave this pose to Jordan pretty clearly as well to now make it 3 poses to 1. Next up is the Backlat Spread pose. I think Jordan's improved this pose as well. Obviously, repeating myself a little bit, but want to give props where you see the improvements. He rounds forward just slightly too much where it flattens out his back a little bit. But again, adding some more depth back there is only going to make this pose stronger. Lower body, very solid, very complete. Conditioning on point. For Quinton, I think he improved this pose as well. You can see a little bit more depth in that detail. You can see it throughout the traps going all the way down into the lower back. Obviously, I think his width also improved a little bit if you compare this to what he looked like in New York last year where he had lost some size, but still, I think it's an improvement. And again, the lower body, it can still stand to adding a little bit more mass. I also think the way he's posing it, you can see just slightly the left side looks a little bit wider and bigger than his right side. So I think that's just the angle of how he's placing his legs. That can be probably fixed pretty easily. But again, conditioning really showed through here. This was a pose to Jordan to make it 4 poses to 1. Next up is the side tricep pose. I think this pose was actually a very close pose. Why is that? Even though, again, you look at their legs from the side, Jordan obviously has better and more complete legs. The conditioning favors him. Upper body wise, I still think Jordan's arms and shoulders in this pose improved. You see the separation in the detail. Also, the size is there. His chest stays thick and full. His midsection is detailed, but as we were posing them, we're looking at everything. Jordan was having just a little bit of trouble keeping that midsection flat in this pose. That's going to take this pose up to another level for him, especially when he's in this condition. For me, Quinton, he hits this pose very well. His waistline looks great. His chest actually looks pretty full in this pose. He's able to let his chest look fuller in this pose than he does, say, in the side chest or in the front lat spread. So when you go overall head to toe in this pose, I actually really like the way Quinton looks. For me, this is basically a 50-50 pose. If I had to choose, I would probably lean just slightly towards Quinton at first, but as we pose them, and especially at the finals at night, I think Jordan's conditioning and everything else was just too much to handle. So for me, I edged this way in prejudging towards Quinton, but in the finals, I definitely gave it to Jordan. So prejudging, 4 poses to 2 for Jordan right now. Finals, 5 poses to 1 for Jordan. Next up is the ab and thigh pose. The ab and thigh for Jordan, I think he can hit this just a little bit better. The way he hits it now, he kind of makes his chest seem a little bit flat. He also isn't showing his abs, I think, as good as they can possibly be, which I think actually will bring his waistline in a little bit more. He has very good abs. You can see the separation in the outline in all of his front poses, even when he's posing from the side as well. But when he hits this ab and thigh, the abs look a little bit washed out. The chest looks a little bit flat. And obviously his taper doesn't look as good as I think it could be. Quads from the front, very good, like I said before. For Quinton, here you see his overall structure and size. Again, look at the way his chest looks when he hits this pose pose compared to Jordan, who you see from all angles has a much, much thicker chest. Posing and positioning matters. As you can see, Quinton's chest actually looks fuller here. His taper obviously looks better. His midsection is great. It's small. He has abs. Again, for Quinton, the conditioning can be better, so the abs are more separated and are more detailed and pop more. But quads, lower body, everything looks in balance. For me, even with the conditioning difference, for the reasons I just stated, I gave this pose to Quinton. So it would be 4-3 at prejudging, 5-2 at finals. And then finally is the most muscular pose. The biggest difference here, again, conditioning. They're basically hitting the same pose. Jordan's quads and legs are better from the front. Outer arms and shoulders are showing through that detail and the separation. The chest, the thickness, the density, and also the separation and detail. And obviously now look at how his abs look when he hits this pose. That's what his abs need to look like when he does the ab and thigh. Abs are detailed. Waistline looks great. Frames himself very well. Still looks wide from shoulder to shoulder. Go to Quinton. You just don't see that same detail with the outer arms and shoulders. Again, you see the difference in the chest, the thickness and the density and the detail here. Obviously, he has a great waistline, but look now at the separation and detail of the abs. You see the difference in this pose. So that's how you know Jordan can be hitting the ab and thigh better, because look at that difference in the midsection and how much those abs pop and everything else between Quinton and Jordan here. And again, lower body, Quinton's quads are great. The leg width could still be a little bit better, but overall still, even with his physique, I think he's very balanced. But for the reasons I just stated, I gave this to Jordan. So 6-2 at night, 5-3 in the morning. I thought it was a pretty clear win for Jordan. Almost positive that both these guys are going to Texas this next week. It's going to be very interesting to see if Quinton is able to push the conditioning a good bit further, because obviously, even with the weaknesses that I just stated and the gaps that he has in his physique, his structure and his size can really carry the day for him. And if he is able to push the conditioning to a level that's close to what Jordan is bringing, I think this could be a very, very, very close show between these two this next week. So excited to see that, but also just really excited for both of these guys, because two guys that are still on the younger side that are clearly making improvements, which is obviously good for the open division. In third place, we had Joseph Palacio. He's a guy that has massively improved. I actually didn't even realize that he competed last year. He did. He did not do very well at the California Pro. I think he brought a very, very impressive physique to the stage, one that really actually surprised me. Obviously for him, his weaknesses is number one, he does have a wide waist. This waistline probably affects him mostly in the front poses. I would say when you're comparing him with the other guys, you see in the front double, the most muscular, ab and thigh and front lat spread. But with the muscularity and the density and the size and the conditioning that he brings, even against the guy who was in fourth, John Jewett, who has a smaller waistline than him, he was able to overcome him and actually beat him in some poses due to all of his strengths that he exhibited. So obviously, number one thing is he can work on trying to bring his waistline in. That's going to change his physique. The more he's able to do that, the better and more aesthetic he's going to look and be able to compare next to these guys that have better structures. The second thing is he can still use more size to his legs, specifically from the front and from the back. Leg width, just overall leg size from the front and the back. When you do this too, when you increase your leg size, you actually see this can help make the illusion of your waist seem a little bit smaller, even if it's exactly the same size. So if he's able to do this from the front and the back, in the back poses, as I'll get to in a second, that's just going to be more icing on the cake. For the front poses, this is going to help him against some of these better guys. The last thing I would say is, as I was posing these guys, we went through a lot of rounds, especially because I felt like first and second were pretty close. You want to make them work for it and earn it. He just needs to do a little bit better of controlling the midsection in the side poses when he's getting tired on stage. So a little bit of a critique there for the posing, but overall I thought his posing was very good. His side poses are very, very strong. You see round, full, big muscle from the side in both side poses. When he was controlling his waist throughout the beginning of the posing, these shots are very, very strong. Then going to the back poses, really, really impressive. His back double bicep has got to be up there for one of the overall best in the league right now. I would love to see it against guys that have really, really good back double bicep poses, because I think he would not look out of place at all. His back looked crazy. The amount of density that he brought, even the width that he brought in these poses, I thought was absolutely incredible. Definitely catches your eye when you're looking at him on the stage. And even though I said he could use some more leg width from the back, his leg width from the back is definitely better than his leg width from the front. front. His hamstrings are detailed. Everything in this pose looks very, very good. So the back double bicep, extremely impressive on him. Obviously, arms and shoulders look great in that too. Then the back lat spread, again, because he has that density and thickness, but also the width and the conditioning that he brought, really, really strong back lat spread. Compared to every single guy on stage, these two poses were the most dominant poses out of any athlete that we had. So really impressed by this guy, and the improvements that he made, if you went back and looked at his physique from just 1 year ago, are absolutely crazy. So really excited to see what he's able to accomplish moving forward. In fourth, we had John Jewett. John's conditioning was good, but he was just a little bit on the flatter side overall, and he's a guy that needs to be totally on and not flat to really make his physique pop. I think his conditioning at the Olympia last year is what kind of conditioning he needs to bring so he's full and he looks perfectly peaked. For him, I think he did a good job of bringing his waistline in even more, but what he needs to work on is still more overall thickness to the chest. He can still use some more thickness and depth to his back, and then in his legs from the front, he can still add a little bit more sweep to the quads. But again, as you saw, he was an Olympian last year. He brought a very good package there. This show was a very deep show and very exciting show when a guy that looks as good as John was in fourth place. So overall, just a great show to judge, and I feel like this is a show that shows the strength of the open division, because there's guys that didn't even make the top 4 that really have very nice physiques, but also very good potential to really make some moves going forward.